Happy Friday. Happy Friday. This is the 10th day of December. This is the 55th. Is that right? The 55th episode of season 2 of the Be Your Own Hero show. I think that's right. Anyway, this is the Be Your Own Hero show. Hero is an acronym. It means helping everyone reach optimism. In other words, helping others helps you. It's a reciprocal action. And I'm your host. I'm Sekouwrites. I am a professional creative and the creator of the Hero Ministry movement. That's my effort to uplift and inspire the unhoused community through a number of different activities. Quick disclaimer, I'm not a personal trainer or financial advisor, so do your own homework, do your own due diligence. Shout out to New Thought Media Network, ntmedia.org is their website. Check them out to see what they're doing. Yes, .org, it is a nonprofit. Check them out to see what they're doing. Check out the other programming on the channel. Also give a donation at ntmedia.org. Check me out here Monday through Friday at 9:45 a.m. Eastern Time, where I'll be talking about, in season 2, financial prosperity, but also spiritual prosperity. If this show provides any value, please like, comment, share, make a donation. All that information is down in the show notes below. Okay, so shout out to the heroes in the chat. Oh, look at that. Rev Melissa is checking out the show. Good to see you. So, Hero Ministry Movement news. Let's get into that right up top. So, today was day 193 of my run streak. Like, it's no longer a charity run, right? So it's a run streak. And a run streak, for those of you who haven't heard of the term, because it was new to me, means that you run at least a mile a day for a certain number of days. And so now the number of days is undetermined in terms of the finish date, but I've been running every day for 193 days in a row. I started on June 1st, and my run streak has continued until now. And today, well, a big chunk of that was a charity run, as you know. Just want to put that out there. But today was a test day. So that's what my mom calls a day when things test you. So today was a test day. I intended to do what is called a streak saver. Streak saver is you take it easy, you just get your mile and just check it off and go. So that was my intention, just get my mile and be done. But so many things showed up to challenge me. And you see this on my run report. You check it out on my social media. So many things started happening to challenge me. Like, it started raining after I was already running on the track. And so my glasses got cloudy because of the rain, and my phone fell, and all these things happened. And I felt like because all those things were happening, that it was a test day, and I was going to have to lean into it and do more in order to pass the test, in order to do more for myself, so that when it gets hard next time, I will remember this time. I remember that I pushed through that last time, that when things got hard, I buckled down and pushed harder. So that's the building of the muscle. That's the muscle that I'm trying to build, the muscle of pushing through despite it getting hard, or especially because it gets hard, to push forward even further. So anyway, check out the run report, and maybe you'll get some inspiration from it. I certainly got some inspiration from it for myself. So all that said, I feel like I need a mission. I need to be back on mission, because when I was doing the charity run, doing my daily run as a charity run, I was much more focused and much more diligent. And so as I create what the new mission will be, in the interim, I've decided that I'm going to beat my total mileage for last month, which was 106 miles, which really blew me away. I remember when my mileage per month was around 30, and then 60, and then 90, and then 99. And then so the big barrier in my head was 100 miles in a month. And then I crossed that barrier, and then I was like, let's do 105. And I did 105, and I was like, let's do 106. So 106 is the largest number of miles I've run in a month. And so I'm going to set a goal to beat that achievement so that I can get myself at least partially back on mission. And that's going to be a big goal because I've already been slacking. I've already been slacking this month. Anyway, that's where we are in terms of that. And when I uncover what the next big bold underscore mission will be, I'll keep you posted. Okay, that's it. I've asked the Fabulous Five to pop onto my show. I'll let you know about that because I'd like to chat with them and also give them their disbursements at the same time. And you guys can see that unfold. Okay, quick truck drop story. So as you know, if you've been watching the show, I've got some food and foodstuffs left over from the Hoodies for the Homeless event. And so I've been giving that out as I go, as I encounter people. And a few people have said no. And one woman stood out to me in particular. She was sitting in a vacant lot on some old tires, and she had some water and looked like crackers maybe. And she seemed to be unhoused. Like you never know, but she seemed to be unhoused. And so I was happened to be driving past her, and I stopped and asked her if she needed anything. And she said no, she didn't need anything. And I offered her everything that I had because I felt like surely she must want some of this, and she didn't want anything. And then she finally asked, "Can I help you?" And I was like, no, I'm good. She's like, "Oh, okay." so that was a really interesting interaction. It made it memorable. So again, a few people have said no, and maybe I'll stop there. Well, I'll tell one more story. And so there is a man who stands at an expressway exit. There are a few people that stand at expressway exits here. That seems to be popular. And if you're on the city streets, they're hard to get to. So I was on a city street and I saw a man at an expressway exit, and I didn't think that I could get there. But then when I looked at him, he seemed to get discouraged. Like, not because I looked at him, but it seemed like at the moment that I looked at him, he was getting discouraged. And I was like, all right, well, let me figure out how to get there. So I went around the corner and around a couple blocks, then kind of got on the expressway just to get off so that I could get over to him. And then I offered him water first, and he gave me this big jolly, "Sure." And then I was like, well, was he discouraged? Because he seems so jolly now. He was like, "Sure." And I gave him some water. And then I asked him if he wanted something else, and then something else, and something else. He kept saying, "Sure, sure." And every time he said "sure," he seemed to have more and more energy. And it kind of made me laugh for no reason. Like, his jolly energy gave me the smiles. And so I ended up giving him a lot of stuff. I just kept loading him up. And then he was just like, "Oh, this is so great." And that's not exactly what he said, but he said something similar. And then he was putting the stuff in his backpack and seemed to be really happy with it. And he said, "Thank you very much, young man." And yeah, that was that interaction. Okay, so that's that. And now, Hoodies for the Homeless. Today's story is really quick. When I first worked with Project Love Strong and their Hoodies for the Homeless event last year, I was surprised by the number of pets. Dogs mostly, but some cats. So those two types of pets I saw a lot of. And there was someone there who had fashioned a leash out of something he found in the trash. And I was like, oh, wow, they've got pets and they need leashes and collars and those kinds of things, which again is not something I would have expected. And so this year I was gratified to see that there was a whole booth dedicated to that. So they had not only leashes and dog collars, but also food, pet food. And I didn't get a chance to look very closely, but hopefully the pet food is in containers that are tough, because one of the unhoused gentlemen was telling me last time that the dog food often gets eaten by other critters. If it's in a plastic bag, they just eat through the bag and then also eat the dog food. And so they have to hang the dog food up high, like in tree branches, which I thought was very fascinating. So hopefully the containers that the dog food was in were tough containers. I'm not quite sure because I didn't get all the way over there. So that's my story about the Hoodies for the Homeless event this past Saturday. And just refreshing the room before we jump into money, this is the Be Your Own Hero show. We're coming up on 10 o'clock. This is now a half-hour show. We start at 9:45 and go to 10:15. Okay, Let's talk about money. Let's do our affirmation. Oh, look at all these comments. Shout out to Wayne. Shout out to Nan. Shout out to Gladys. Thanks for checking in. Shout out to Simone. Thanks for checking in. Okay, so here's the affirmation. I am so happy and grateful to be a multimillionaire in every area of my life. I am so happy and grateful to be a multimillionaire in every area of my life. So the reminder is that it's not just about finances, right? And I have to remind myself that too. Rev Mel reminded me that there are all kinds of abundance lessons in the charity run that I just completed. And when she said that, I was like, oh yeah, huh. But I hadn't really thought about it in advance. So just remind yourself that there's abundance all around you, and it may not be financial. But if you express gratitude for whatever the abundance is that's around you, more abundance will come. I feel like that's a good place for a reminder of something I said yesterday. And I think maybe I say this every day as a reminder to myself and hopefully to you too. The poor people spend, the middle class saves, and the wealthy invest. So if we're going to be wealthy, we got to invest. It's imperative. It's not optional. It's imperative. It's not optional. And not having money is not an excuse. Just use a little piece of whatever you got, even if it's a small piece. Again, you can start buying stocks with as little as $1 on Cash App and Robinhood. Okay, just a reminder. All right, so part one of the money stuff is stock market kindergarten. It tickles me when I say that. So this week I've been talking about buying the dip. And last night I went even further down the rabbit hole and started watching some videos. And I was like, maybe I should let that go. Maybe I should let the whole buy the dip thing go. Because like when I started listening to real investors start talking about buying a dip, they're on a different level. First of all, they're talking about the dip being at least 30%. I was like, oh, because I called myself buying the dip at like 2% down. And they were literally laughing about that in the video. They were like, yeah, that's not down. That's not a dip. A dip is a big dip, like 30% down. And then also 30% down or more. 30% down or more. And their point was, not just them and some other people, their point was you buy the dip in order to sell higher. So they're talking about trading stocks, which I'm not ready for. I'm not ready to start trading. Like I'm trying to secure these bricks, like these, buy and hold long-term bricks. I'm not ready to get into the trading game. I feel like that may be something that happens later, but not yet. So they were talking about supports, breakouts, candlesticks, those kinds of things. And those are terms that I now recognize as the lingo of trading. So they buy the dip when it drops really low so that they can watch the market closely and figure out exactly when to sell. And I was like, okay, well, that's not the game I'm in. I'm not trying to watch the market closely. I'm not trying to be on the apps all day, every day to see when to buy and when to sell. So I may have to pull back on my buy the dip idea, which led me to go further into averaging down. Like I was using those terms synonymously this week, and I realized after last night they're not quite the same. So I just talked about buying the dip. And averaging down is what I said. It's if you buy at $70 and then it dips down to 60 and you buy again, now your average price is in between. It's like $65 or so. So that works. But again, I just figured out that it is a trading term. That's what people do when they're intending to flip the stock. They're intending to sell the stock for a profit. And in the examples I found, people were averaging down by buying big chunks, like 100 shares of something, 100 shares of this, 100 shares of that. So I'm going to keep an eye on averaging down. But again, I kind of want to stay away from the trading stuff for now. I want to keep it simple for as long as possible and get comfortable keeping it simple before I move up to the next thing. So when I was thinking about that, that reminded me of the rules that I've established so far. And there's only two. There's only two rules I've established so far, I think, other than investing is imperative, so that makes 3. But the other 2 rules are the 80% rule. You've heard me talk about this if you watched the show. So what I mean by that is you want to invest in stocks that you believe in, which requires doing some research, doing some due diligence, because you've got to believe that these stocks are going to go the distance. That even if they fall to 80%, you got to believe in them enough to ride it out. Or you go a different route. You go the route of not being attached to any particular stock, and then you're moving into trading. So if you're going to be detached from the stocks and be willing to sell your losers and keep your winners, that means paying more attention to the stock market. And that, again, that really involves trading. So if you're ready for trading, then that's the idea, to be impartial. So in terms of buy and hold, it's about doing the research, doing the due diligence, and knowing that this is a company, as much as you can know, knowing that this is a company that's going to go the distance, and then believing in it. And therefore, when the stock dips, you're not scared. You're like, okay, I can ride it out because I did my due diligence. And you've also looked to see why it's dipping. That's important. When the stock dips, if you go into any of the brokerage accounts, Cash App, Robinhood, Ameritrade, E-Trade, any of them, and you go to the page for your position, your stock, it will have the latest breaking news about that stock. So it'll tell you basically why it's dipping. And if you don't want to do that, just go to Google and say, why is Netflix down? Why is Netflix stock down? And then you find out that way. So believe in your company, but don't have blind faith. Also pay attention to why there are fluctuations. But anyway, all of that is rule number 2, the 80% rule. And rule number 3, I don't know if I stated this as exactly a rule before, but the third rule that I've been employing for me is the rule of 14, meaning the rule of $14. I talked about someone who, because of this show, created a portfolio of 7 stocks with $2 on each stock, so 14 bucks. And she was talking about how there was no movement on the 7 stocks, and that invited me to think about that further. And the resolution that I came to is that if you've got limited resources, if you got $14, then it's best to let that ride on 1 stock or 2 stocks. It's better to have like $14 on 1 stock or $7 on 2 rather than $2 on 7 stocks. Because if one of those stocks hits, quote unquote, and it goes up 200%, you're only going to get $4. 200% of $2 is $4. It's like, so even though you won in terms of the percentage, you didn't make anything because you didn't have enough money invested. But if you've got $7 invested and it goes up 200%, then you've got 14, right? If you got 14 invested and it goes up to 28. So the way that I've been employing that rule for me is I'll spread out over about 7 stocks in a particular segment that I'm interested in. And then I'll watch to see which of those 7 are doing the best, and then consolidate my positions to 1 or 2, but not keep it spread out over 7, because I'm working with limited resources. So I want to get the biggest bang for my buck in terms of investing. So if that's helpful to you, feel free to use it. Those are my 3 rules. Investing is not optional, the 80% rule, and the rule of 14. Okay, so that is stock market kindergarten today. Did I miss anything? Oh, I wanted to mention buybacks. I became aware of this recently. Sometimes companies do buybacks. Microsoft is doing a buyback right now. That's interesting. So essentially, the company is buying back shares of its stock. Now, this appeals to me because as a jewelry designer, I understand scarcity, and the less of something there is, the more value it has. So I get immediately that if they are limiting the number of stocks that are out there in the marketplace, then those stocks will rise in value. So that's interesting also because Microsoft is investing heavily in the metaverse. And And I'm not a financial advisor, but the metaverse is going to be huge. It's going to be huge. So to me, that's a secondary reason to invest in Microsoft. Not only are they doing a buyback, which does not seem to limit your ability to buy the stock, but behind the scenes somewhere, they're doing a buyback, and a significant buyback, like multi-million or maybe $1 billion buyback. Like, it's a big deal. So if you Google it, you'll see the news. And also, they are a big investor in the metaverse. So that's two reasons to really consider Microsoft. Because, well, I've said it all already, but just to recap, your share presumably will go up faster because they're doing a buyback. And then when the metaverse comes online, it'll go up even more. So I'm not a stock advisor, but check out Microsoft. It might be worth looking at. And also, there have been a number of SPACs. We've talked about SPACs a little bit, mostly in terms of Shaq, because that's how I discovered SPACs, the existence of SPACs to begin with. But these are holding companies, essentially, that are created for the express purpose of taking a company public. Well, there's been a few SPACs that have been created to take companies public that are in the NFT space. Now, that's very interesting, because if it's an SPAC and they're taking a company public, then if you get in, you're in on the ground floor. And so this is just a gamble about whether or not the company will manage that technology well, and whether that technology will continue to be popular. Like, for example, NFTs in 2020, there was little or no action in NFTs. And NFTs have only existed since 2017. So there's been little or no activity most of that time. But here in 2021, they've shot up to $150 million. In general, there's that much money is being transacted in NFTs. So if that trend continues, presumably an SPAC that was created to bring a company public that is expressly interested in NFTs should do well. I mean, do your own due diligence, but that should bear out. So that leads us into Planet Techno. That's a nice segue. So, couple things. Maybe let me start there, because right now I'm thinking about companies that already exist that are suddenly allocating resources to crypto, to NFTs, to the metaverse. So the point there is that you can invest in what I'm calling Planet Techno without having to get too techno. Like, you can just invest in known brands. So, for example, Adidas is doing, I might have mentioned this before, but Adidas is doing a really big buy so that they can create sneakers that can be bought in the metaverse. So Adidas is a huge company. They've been trending up for a while. Their share price is around $150 per share. I mean, but it's a known brand. So you could invest in Adidas because it's Adidas, but also with the idea that as their holdings in the metaverse increase, their share price will increase. That's the idea. But there's other companies. Playboy has gotten involved. The sports teams have gotten involved. Twitter has gotten involved. Twitter is now considered a company to buy as an NFT company, because Jack Dorsey, who is the founder and CEO of Twitter, recently sold his first tweet for $3 million, or $2.9 million, but let's just call it $3 million. He sold it for $3 million. And that news went wide. Oh, this is my alarm and the bird. That bird sounds really close, doesn't it? Anyway, so he sold his first tweet for $3 million, and then other people saw that and they started selling their tweets. So many tweets have been sold. So even though it's not technically an NFT marketplace, it is becoming a de facto NFT marketplace, because popular people on Twitter are suddenly selling their tweets. That said, Twitter is a publicly traded company, so you can buy shares of Twitter and benefit from this increased interest in Twitter because Jack Dorsey and other people are selling their tweets. So again, there are a number of different ways to get exposure to what I'm calling Planet Techno without having to get too technological. So you might want to check out Adidas. You might want to check out Twitter. Oh, and also DraftKings. DraftKings is a betting company, and the why that's interesting is the Chicago Bulls did an NFT collection, and the Chicago Bulls NFT collection sold out in 90 seconds. 90 seconds. I don't even know how much money that is. I don't know how many items they had, but it's the Chicago Bulls. That's a franchise that's been around for a while. So they've got access to infinite content. So that just shows you how fast these things are moving. And so what I'm suggesting for myself and perhaps for you is instead of trying to figure out which NFTs to get in on, it might be better to get in on the companies that are getting in on NFTs, because we can assume that these companies are either creating whole segments of the company that are dedicated to figuring this out, or they're hiring consultants. Either or, they're doing their due diligence for sure to make the investments in the right way. So we can just ride their coattails, which is hard for smart people to do, but I think that's the smartest play. Okay, so all that said, I'm just going to do a quick recap of resources, very quick because I'm running low on time. But resources. So my podcast, Get Rich 101, check that out. The Science of Getting Rich, the book. Rich Dad, Poor Dad, the book. Giant Beast That Is the Global Economy, the show. I'm telling you, it's entertaining. Check it out. You won't be sorry. And also bigmoneycrypto.com. Take a look at the headlines to just get familiar with how quickly the world is mainstreaming. See, if you think about what's happening just in the United States, it doesn't seem like things are happening very quickly. But when you think globally, when you see what's happening globally, you see that the mainstreaming of what I'm calling Planet Techno is happening very fast. So it's important for all of us to be aware and knowledgeable so that we can figure out the ways that we can benefit from it for ourselves and for others. I think that's it. Oh, and also this book I just read is called NFT Art and Collectibles for Beginners. Fascinating stuff. Fascinating stuff. Even people who have no interest in NFTs will enjoy reading the book because it's so interesting. So check that out too. NFT Art and Collectibles for Beginners. All right. So coming up next is prayer time at 10:15, and then it's Sit with Reverend Melissa at 10:30. And I'll probably be popping in to say hello on that show. So until you see me again on, Sunday, you'll see me on Sunday if you check me out, guest hosting Living Life in Joy for Rev Melissa on Sunday. So check me out there. Until then, keep doing, be a hero, be your own hero, and remember that now, right now, is better than perfect. Later.